How to use a reciprocating saw. Before I use my reciprocating saw, also known as a sawzall, because it literally will saw through just about anything, I'm going to check the housing, I'm going to check the cord, and I'm going to check the blade. I'm going to move my cord out of my way, and I'm going to start looking at the housing. I'm looking for cracks, any missing pieces, especially if it gets dropped around the handle area. They tend to break off. Make sure everything's there. I'm going to check my cord, especially on the ends. I'll run my hands down the cord to make sure there's no tears and frays. I can bend it and look, especially focusing near the plug and where it goes in the sword. Then I'm going to check my blades. I've got a blade here. If you look at it, it's quite dull. In fact, it's gone. It's trash. I've got another blade here. If you look at it, it's got some sharpness to it, but it's quite bent. What you do, this is quite common recip saws, you take it with a pair of pliers, grab it with the end right near the bend, and just pull back. And you can pretty well straighten them back out. It's very common for these blades to get bent. Now I'm ready to use it. I'm gonna make sure I have my PPE, I have my glasses, my pants and my shoes. I'm making sure it's unplugged. And no trigger lock engaged. There's generally no trigger lock on a reciprocating saw. If anyway, just punch the trigger a couple times. If there was one, it would disengage. Make sure my material is secure, and I'm going to draw me a line. I'm going to scribe me a line 1 inch from the end, come in at the 1 inch mark, take my speed square, draw me a square line. And I want this 1 inch block. So what I want when I get finished is I want a block that's 1 inches along within our tolerance. And if you notice on this side, we call the other side waist. The waist is what I don't want. So when I run the blade, I'm going to run down this side of the line, on the waist side of the line, so that when I finish, I'll have a block that's exactly 1 inch. I'm going to choose the correct blade. In this case, I'm using a bimetal blade. It also does wood. It has 6 teeth per inch, so 1 inch, you can count out 6 teeth. This is a very aggressive wood blade, and it's actually quite sharp. I'm going to insert my blade. Give it a shake to make sure it goes in. Some of these saws are wanting to hang up a little bit. That's secure. Plug it in. Make sure I've got electrical contact. Yes, we have contact. Now, when you go to cut, I'm cutting down this side of the line, my waist side of the line. When I line this blade, it's a little different than when I use a jigsaw or a a skill saw. You start from this way and push away. This one you generally take with a sawzall and you pull it back towards you. Now this is going to cause it to jump around a lot because those teeth are pretty aggressive and they're going to grab the piece of wood and cause it to shake. But if I push with the saw at the same time, again with the shoe part, push against my wood, it actually holds it fairly stable so that I can even cut this without a clamp at times if I have to. So I'm going to, what I usually like to do is bump the trigger a few times, just get the blade moving. Let it barely make contact with the wood and start me a kerf. A kerf means any groove cut by a blade. Then I'm going to hold it, and once I get it up to speed, I'm going to cut all the way through. As you can see, it's wanting to jump. And you can hold the blade freehand out here and it will cut, but the wood's going to want to jump, so I actually push against it with the shoe to keep it from cutting. And one thing too, just like hand saws, when you get to the end of this, you're going to want to be holding onto the saw here at the grip because it's going to want to fall all the way through and you don't want to cut yourself in the leg with these blades. Have to be prepared. I'm going to lay the saw down for a second. I'm going to retrieve the block and check my work. I wanted a 1 inch block. I'm going to line it with my measuring device, and here's the 1 inch. So in our wood shop, we give you a tolerance of plus or minus 1/8. That means a little wiggle room. It don't have to be exactly 1 inch. I don't expect you to be that accurate. You're just learning. So you have plus or minus 1/8. So I go from the 1 inch. On the plus side, a plus 1/8, you can have all the way to 1 1/8 for your cut. On the minus side, you have all the way back to 7/8. So this block of wood you cut for me needs to be between 7/8 and 1 1/8. that gives you a total tolerance of 1/4 of an inch. I mean, your target being 1. So this is within tolerance. It's pretty much exactly on the 1-inch mark. Now that I'm finished my cut, I'll make sure I unplug my saw. I'm going to check the housing again. I'm going to check and make sure it is clean and dry, and make sure I haven't broken anything. I'm going to take my blade and make sure I haven't bent it or it's not too dull. Lay it to one side, and as I finish, I'm going to grab it by the head, and I'm going to wrap the cord around the head of this thing. And then the last couple are going to go through this little loop that's made in the backup. That way it secures the cord, and it's ready to go in the slot, in the storage room, in the tool room. That is how to use reciprocating saw. So what I want to see from you is I want to see you perform and tell me about the 3 inspection points, the 8 points on how to use it. I want to see you mark a 1-inch line square on the end of a board. A square line 1 inch from the end of a board. And I want to see you perform the 3 maintenance checks at the end of it, including checking the blade to make sure it's not bent, because it's very common to bend these blades. Upload that back to Google Classroom.